Horror games come in many different ways. Some are more focused on making you feel a certain way by zeroing in on atmosphere, sound, and storytelling, and other horror games focus more on startling or scaring the player through jump scares and chase sequences. There are many ways to make a horror game, but one of my favorite types is when they turn the mundane parts of life into something absolutely horrific. It takes a certain amount of creativity to turn something so boring and normal into something that's truly terrifying. And that's why today, we're looking at a game called The Convenience Store developed by Chilla's Art. It's a Japanese horror game about a college girl who works night shifts at a convenience store, but the catch is, each night slowly gets stranger and stranger. This game does an excellent job at creating suspense and making you feel like you're always being watched by something. In my opinion, this developer has done an excellent job at depicting the normalities of life and turning them into something that is really creepy and off-putting. With that said, before I get into the story, if you're at all interested in playing this game, I highly advise playing it before watching this video, because I go into many spoilers within the game. It takes about an hour to play through it and is currently priced at $2.99, so definitely worth giving it a try. All that said, let's get right into it. So the game starts you off waking up in your apartment to get ready for your night shift at the convenience store. Looking around, you come across your bathroom, laundry room, and your living room. And while looking around, you come across your work clothes and put it on to get ready for work. With your work clothes now on, you head to your refrigerator to grab something to eat, with the only option being a bento box. You put the food in the microwave and wait for what felt like an eternity. The microwave finally stops, allowing you to take the food and eat it. And once you finish your late night meal, you head towards the stairway and grab your flashlight while heading out the door. So as you can see, this game is already setting up the atmosphere and giving you time to immerse yourself within this world. So far everything seems fine, maybe boring even, and there isn't really anything to be worried about as of yet. But since we know this is a horror game, as you're getting ready for your shift, you are left with one thought, and that thought being, what's gonna happen when you exit out that door? Along with this, you are also not really directed on where to go, so you are literally and figuratively left in the dark on where to go. This is one of the reasons why, if done right, horror games that focus on the normalities of life can be fear-inducing, because it plays with your head, making you feel like something is gonna happen when nothing actually does. The things you do in the game are so mundane and uneventful that you are left pondering what the game is gonna try and do to scare you, which in turn creates suspense. Going back to the game, when you're exiting your apartment, you are faced with a dark blue sky and a dark neighborhood. As you're walking, exploring the area, you come across little paths and roads that lead in different directions. After looking around a bit, you come across a bridge with it going over a deep trench, so deep you can't even see the bottom. You'll also notice while walking around the neighborhood, it's surrounded by these huge thick concrete walls, with the only opening being the bridge, creating this feeling of isolation. After crossing the bridge, you catch a glimpse of the convenience store, but also realize how barren it is outside of the neighborhood. It's as if you live in the middle of a desert. As you get closer, you see a man laying aside the store. Curious, you walk to the old man and start a conversation, but you instantly regret it when you find out he's a little off, with him talking about how he was called to warn you, and that the day of judgment will come. Weirded out, you walk away and head into the store and come across your coworker and find out he's not a very pleasant person either, when he tries to scare you with a fake story about a man walking down the street with his legs bent the other way. You shrug him off and punch in for your shift in the back room, and read your to-do list given by your manager. You find out you have to throw away expired products into the dumpster out back, and after reading the list you also check the CCTV for anything out of the norm, but find everything to be as expected. As you walk out the back room, a customer walks in looking for something to get from the store. You continue on, exiting the counter and look for expired products. And after searching for a bit, you find some that are expired and dump it in the bag and head out back. You open the door and throw away the expired products, but after throwing them out, you notice yellow tape blocking an opening to some small area. It looks as if it hasn't been used in years, being left abandoned. Shrugging it off, you carry on about your shift, heading back into the store to take care of the customer waiting at the counter. You scan his food and he heads back out, disappearing into the night. After the customer leaves, you carry on looking for expired products, but something peculiar happens. The sliding doors seem to be broken, opening and closing as if someone or something is there. It's very subtle, it's nothing that would drive fear on its own, but it does a good job in persuading the player's thought process by giving you hints that something is gonna happen, and that there will be something dangerous coming after you. It gets your imagination running, creating more tension in the player because now you have clarification that something strange is happening at the store. It's also a small break and a diversion from this normal life of working at a convenience store, keeping the player's interest in the game. After a while, the sliding doors stop opening and continue to function as they should. You continue doing your job and find the last bit of expired products, and throw them in the dumpster. You head back in and wait for the other customers, but a delivery man comes in instead, bringing a box for you. After grabbing the box, you decide to take it home, which causes the game to fast forward to the next night. Now back at home, you realize you have opened the box and inside is a VHS tape. You put the tape into the VHS player and it shows you an area with yellow caution tape blocking the area. It seems familiar to the area in the back of the store, but it's in a different location. After watching it, you carry on about your night and get ready for your shift again. One thing I'd like to note is that the game doesn't force you to go through the whole routine of putting on your work clothes and getting food ready before you go to work. Instead, it skips that part for you entirely, which is nice because it'd be a real hassle to have to do that for every single night. Back to the game, you grab your flashlight and head out the door. But while heading out, you get a black screen that reads First Night. After this, the game allows you to continue on, and the first thing you'll realize when walking through the neighborhood is that it's much darker than the last. Instead of the sky being dark blue, it is now pitch black. I love that the game does this because it prevents the player from losing tension when walking to the convenience store by changing the atmosphere of the neighborhood. It's the same way when you find yourself driving at night. It just feels different. Also, you feel like something could happen to you while walking to the convenience store because of the weird incidences with the VHS tape and the sliding doors. It's a clever way of reusing an area while managing to keep the tension high. After going through the neighborhood, you make your way inside the store and see your coworker again. He talks to you about how he got your report of the sliding doors and had a guy come and fix them, and says the wires were loose. He continues asking you, what, did you think it was some poltergeist? And he talks about how he sees those on TV, but they're just scripted, and that ghosts aren't real. I also think this is a clever way the game makes the player feel unsure of what might have happened, because that weird incident with the doors last night turns out to be the faulty of the sensors and not some ghost. It gets the player thinking of what might happen this shift, which also causes the rise in suspense. After talking with your coworker, you head into the back room and punch in. Going to the note from your manager, you find out you have to get rid of some rats in the back since the dumpsters got knocked over. After reading the note, you make your way to the back of the refrigerators and grab the rat poison. You then head out back and kill all the rats, but as you finished, you hear a customer walk in. Going into the store, you find an old lady heading to the restroom. And this is where I want to take some time to talk about how people in this game are so well designed. The first thing you notice is that they are very eerie and off-putting due to their detailed nature. It also doesn't help that their faces don't move and are just still images. It's as if they are just a husk of a human, or a creature mimicking what a human is. The old lady is one of the best designs because it manages to really creep you out. Looking at her, her smile feels fake, and you can't see the white in her eyes. Along with this, her expression looks like she's in pain, but yet happy. It's a very odd expression, and I think this design of this lady captures why this game works so well. It captures the norms of reality but puts a slight twist on it, causing the world to feel slightly off, almost dreamlike due to the nature of how this world looks. To the barren area around the store, to the closed-off neighborhood you live in, and the creepy designs of the humans in this game, it all comes together and makes you feel off somehow. Back to the game, you let the lady go into the restroom and wait for other customers. After waiting a while, someone comes in fast and parks crooked out front of the store. A man walks in looking as if he needs to go somewhere urgent and explains that he's in a rush and wants you to fetch him 5 cans of beer and a pack of cigarettes. You give him everything he asks for and send him on his way. And after he leaves, the lady comes out of the restroom, but stops, just staring at you with the same eerie expression. You reluctantly go over to her and see what the problem is. When going up to the lady, she starts asking you where Ken-kun is, and says that she heard his voice. She goes on talking about how this was her daughter's house, and starts getting angry towards you, yelling, "What did you do?" After yelling at you, she carries on and exits the store. And one thing that was really weird is that she didn't have a car or way of transport. She just slowly walks into the darkness and disappears into the dark night. It was very odd. You'd think this old lady would use a car to get around, because there are no houses close in the direction she's walking. But I didn't get to think about it long when the doors started acting up again. Going back, you check the doors and find nothing is blocking it. So you go to the CCTV and look at the doors through the camera and find a child was playing with the doors. As soon as you spot her, she runs off, leaving you flabbergasted, because now you know there are ghosts within the store. Heading back to the door and looking outside, you don't find the girl anywhere in sight. And as you look around, the delivery man comes by and says there's a package that needs to be delivered. So you go to the back and hand him the package and watch him exit the store. After a while, the game fast forwards to the second night. The first thing you realize is that it's now raining outside. Now knowing that you have to walk out in the rain, you look around your apartment for an umbrella. But as you do, you hear a knock on the door, and when opening it, it's another box with a VHS tape in it. You decide to take it inside and play the tape. This is when you see it's a video of the yellow tape again, but from a different angle this time. After grabbing your flashlight and umbrella, you head out into the heavy rain, and doing the same thing, you go through the neighborhood and make your way to the convenience store. You go in, but don't see your coworker anywhere. So you carry on, going into the back room, but get scared by your coworker jumping out from one of the lockers. I like that the game does this because it releases some tension that's been building up for a while, letting you relax a little bit before gaining it all back. It's also at a good point in the game, so it feels justified. Back to the game, after getting scared by your coworker, you punch in and read the note from your manager, and find out you have to restock some of the shelves in the store. While you are restocking the shelves, you get locked in the back of the refrigerators with the door behind you closing on its own. After waiting a while, the door finally unlocks, allowing you to exit the room. This was done really well. It was unexpected and made me feel like something was gonna happen. It also didn't help that there were boxes scattered around the room, preventing me from seeing everything clearly, making me feel more on edge. It had me in suspense, and I was truly expecting something to occur, but instead nothing actually happens, and the game carries on as if it never did. More alert now, you finish restocking the store, and after you're done, some man comes in, and it turns out he came to repair the air conditioner at the back of the store to keep the food fresh. While he examines the AC, you found out the yellow tape has been removed, and now you can finally investigate the area. When going in, you find it's barren, with the only exception being a small storage shed in the corner. You try to open the door, but you're unable to open it even though it's unlocked. And for some strange reason, when you try to turn the handle, your arm just goes numb. So not being able to open the door, you head back and find the man has left, and has also dropped his wrench on the floor. Being handy, you go ahead and fix the AC yourself, and head back inside the store. When in the store, you find another customer is walking around. You wait for her at the counter, and when she comes up, she hands you a protection charm since you're a lady alone at night. After she leaves, you walk around in the store a little, and when you get near the restroom area, it opens on its own. You hesitantly investigate, but when entering, the door locks behind you. Along with this, you also hear the sliding doors open. After what felt like forever, the doors finally open, and you realize someone or something has made a mess of the store. You decide to head to the CCTV to see if there is anyone you can catch on camera, but what you find instead is much worse than what you could have imagined. Looking at one of the cameras, a huge tall dark-figured woman is standing near the counter. Just before you could get a good look at her, she jumps right into the camera, startling you. Now, this was a really good scare. Everything built up to it so nicely, from getting locked in the rooms for no reason, to hearing the sliding doors open, and the store being made a mess by something. All these little things added up and made me feel very uneasy. Another thing that was done really well was the jump scare itself. Instead of it instantly jumping into the camera, it waits a couple seconds, allowing you to see what it is briefly before jumping towards you, catching you off guard. It's really good and is, in my opinion, the best jump scare in this game. After this jump scare, you exit the camera and look back where you saw the ghostly figure, but instead you find talismans where she was standing. You decide to use these talismans on the door at the small shed in the back of the store. And when placing them, the door opens and you find yourself facing your now deceased manager. Along with this, you also see a TV and a VHS player. And looking at the TV, you'll realize it reads number 4. And looking around a little bit, you come to realize there are VHS tapes everywhere. You try to exit, but the door is locked, trapping you in. And you start hearing loud banging on the door and awful demonic noises and screams outside the shed. Looking to your dead manager, you also see he is somehow staring at you with his bloody cold eyes. After a while, you wake up into the third night. And thinking it was all a horrible nightmare, you carry on about your day and get ready for work. While you get ready, you come across a VHS tape. You play it and it shows the small shed you were stuck at during the second night. Frightened, you head outside and make your way to the convenience store. When making it in, your coworker isn't anywhere to be seen, and he doesn't scare you like last time. Looking around, you find that there's no ticket to punch in, and there's also no note from your manager. It all seems very strange. Weirded out, you try to exit, but while doing so, the aura changes, and rusty nails cover the floors. Along with this, all the shelves are replaced with TVs. You try to exit, but the doors are locked, preventing you from escaping. You decide to look into the CCTV and find a childlike ghost is walking around the store to specific TVs that are on the shelves. You decide to turn on the TVs that the child has looked at, which causes you to hear creepy noises from back of the refrigerators. Making your way closer to the sound, you find it's coming from that ghost you saw on the CCTV, sitting in the corner facing the wall. You hesitantly get closer to it, and unexpectedly, the tall, lengthy woman stands behind you, staring at you. And just as quickly as they appeared, they vanish, leaving the store as it was when you entered. Now, I like and dislike this part of the game. When solving the TV puzzle, it was really hard to see what TV the child was looking at. The angles given by the cameras aren't great, and makes it very difficult to know which ones to turn on. I think it would have helped if the child pointed at the TVs instead of just looking at them. It would have made this part so much easier. Other than that, I really love the changes in the store. It makes it feel like you entered another world. The music played in the store sounds distorted, and you can hear the sounds of metal scraping against each other outside. It feels dark and grim with the rusty nails on the floor, and this feeling is farther driven when you get close to the ghost sitting in the corner and see the tall, ghostly figure. It's very creepy, and left me feeling very helpless. Going back to the game, you hear the sliding door open and close. You go to investigate and find a VHS tape left on the door. Picking it up, you decide to take it home, and that's when the game fast forwards to night 4. This is when you are given a choice. You can either play the tape or store it in a box sending it back. If you watch it, you are shown a video of you lying in bed in your living room. After watching it, you are back in bed late at night. You find yourself unable to move, and you watch in horror as this tall, ghostly figure you saw in the store crawls onto your bed, coming closer to you and killing you, causing the game to end. Now, the other ending, if you don't watch the tape, the girl explains that she sealed the VHS tape and decided to send it off back to the sender. She decides to investigate what happened at the store, to find out what happened and why, and to find the truth if she was really going crazy or not. She turned to the internet and found that in 2009, there was a case where a man who was head of the family committed a murder-suicide. Investigating farther, you find out on September 14th, the man killed his child with a kitchen knife and killed his wife who was pregnant at the time by puncturing her with several nails, killing both her and her child. He then took some rope and hung himself. Startled by this story, the girl you play as decides to call her manager and talk about everything she had experienced during her shift, but found out her manager was found dead in the small shed in the back of the store, proving her so-called nightmare was reality. After learning about this, she decides to go and quit her job to avoid going near the store at all costs. And after a while, the memories of the store died down a little bit, and one day as she passed by the now closed store, she hears the child's voice and the woman. She continues on that when she looked in her hand, she had picked up one of the rusted nails that had fallen in the middle of the site. And after this, the game finally ends. So now that we've gone through the story, I first want to explain some of the things that I figured out. Back when you come across the old lady, she talks about how she thought she heard Ken-kun and how this story used to be her daughter's house. Well, it turns out this lady isn't going crazy. She probably heard the ghost of Ken-kun, who is the child we see playing with the sliding doors and the one that we saw walking around the store. Also, the daughter she is talking about is most likely the tall woman figure that we see in the camera and when we look in the back of the refrigerators. The only thing I really can't understand is the correlation between the ghosts and the VHS tapes. I'm assuming these ghost spirits have a lot of anger from what happened to them, so maybe they use these tapes to allow themselves to kill their victims. Maybe the manager got himself into this mess seeing as he found him with a bunch of tapes and VHS players. Either way, it's kinda left up to assumptions. With that said, let's talk about what makes this game so great. This game does a good job at creating tension by having you walk through the neighborhood each time you have to go to work. It makes you feel like there could be a jump scare at any moment, and the build up to going outside enhances that feeling of dread. I like that the first night isn't as dark as the rest, because when it gets darker, it feels like you're in a different environment, and it makes you feel more tense because you can't see as far as you could the first time you went through the neighborhood. Along with this, weird things start happening at your job, which makes you feel like you might be getting hunted by someone. It's creepy and effective, and does its job well. I also like that the game doesn't let you forget that something could happen unexpectedly, which causes you, the player, to feel on guard and in fear of someone coming after you at all times. The mysterious tapes sent to you and the back storage shed do a really good job at showing you something strange is happening and that you are being watched by some presence. In this game, the normalities of life are twisted and skewed, making you feel like this world is almost dreamlike. From the barren area outside of the neighborhood, to the high concrete walls surrounding where you live, and the creepy looking people you come across, it's all designed so well with the intent of making you feel off. And that's really why this game works so well. It turns the normalities of life into something eerie and off-putting by placing you in a world that is familiar but has qualities that are not the norm in real life. It also achieves this by introducing you to the world as normal, with you getting ready and going to work. The game puts a lot of time into showing what you'd expect from real life, and that's why when things start changing in this world, it feels more impactful and off because the game spent so much time showing you the opposite. This game is very slow-paced to allow you to immerse yourself within this odd world, and in return, it leaves you with an eerie feeling in your stomach, which in my opinion is far better than any jump scare could ever do. All that said, if you enjoyed this video, give it a like and maybe subscribe so you don't miss out on my upcoming Let's Play of Amnesia: The Bunker. Also, don't hesitate on leaving a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the game and what you think might have happened. With that said, see you next time.